It's your boy, Ramoy George Phillip, the first.
And it's Samantha and Zessie.
This is Masculinity.
The show that investigates the performance of masculinity in the world today, and you know we spell it with a hard K. So, Ramoy.
Yes, Samantha?
Do you want to know what our old friend Keiston Odell rated you?
Wow, okay. I'm assuming this is from our last episode of Beneath the Mask on the gram, right?
It is. You know, last week I got a little deeper with Keiston about his episodes, Hearing the Warriors, talking further about indigenous masculinities and resistance, but maybe most importantly, he rated my co-host hosting skills.
Okay, come on, just tell us. The people deserve to know.
Well, he actually rated you a 10 out of 10.
Hell yes, he did. Damn right he did.
You deserve it. You deserve it. Okay. So we got another guest today who may give you a high rating, our old friend and our resident men's counselor, Justin Leoy. Welcome back. Great to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Justin, this is your first time back in a long time. So, pop quiz.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about on the show today?
We're talking about men isolation and the holidays and feeling down about that and how to take care of ourselves.
All right, so we'll see if Justin makes good on his word, and that's coming up.
Curious about Next Gen Men? We're a small part of a much larger movement to undefine masculinity for a brighter future. Our mission is clear: empower the next generation to use their curiosity, empathy, and courage to build a more equitable world. Join the Next Gen Men community as we learn and unlearn together. We're here to support boys and men to break free from limiting stereotypes. We're not just an organization, we're a catalyst for reimagining masculinity and fostering inclusivity. We're here to help open up possibilities for what men and boys can be. Explore the world of Next Gen Men at nextgenmen.ca and join the community to make a difference. Next Gen Men, shaping tomorrow's leaders one step at a time. Join us and help undefine masculinity and empower the next generation of men to lead with empathy and courage.
Welcome back. It's December, and that means we're in the thick of the holiday season.
Or the happiest season.
Okay. Are we talking movies again?
Kinda. Actually, I'm wondering if our guest, that's our resident counselor and counselor for men in Brooklyn, New York, Justin Leoy, have you seen The Happiest Season?
Is that a movie? I have not seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Okay, so The Happiest Season came out around this time in 2020, and it centers around a lesbian couple coming home to meet the family, so to speak. So there's,
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. So for the listeners out there, there's, the typical family holiday hijinks, big passive-aggressive angst. It's a pretty modern take on the holiday genre.
So we are talking movies.
Well, I think we can start there, but let's go back in time.
Got it. Me and Justin are buckling in the time machine. Let's go.
All right, so Justin and Ramoy, if I were to ask you what classic holiday movie came out in 1990, what would you guess?
I know this answer very well, but I'll let Justin take it.
Was it the National Lampoon?
It's a good guess.
No, 1990. That's too late. Yeah.
Think easier.
Think easier. I'm going back to the 50s, Charlie Brown and stuff. It's a Wonderful Life, 1940s. I need help. Can I phone a friend?
Yes, you can phone. Well, I'm your friend today. All right, so it's actually it's Home Alone. It's Home Alone.
Oh, wow.
Ah, yes. It's classic Kevin McAllister, the man who really knew how to live.
So actually, now that you say that, I do have a question for you too.
Okay.
So if you had to pick one of these holiday scenarios, okay, one is time filled with family and friends, along with all that fun drama, or you have to be home alone for the holidays, which would you choose?
Okay, how dare you make us choose? But I feel this is like a trick question, so I'm going to say I'm going to be doing Home Alone, man. You got Joe Pesci. You just get time with Pesh. Like, Home Alone it is for me. Justin?
Wow. So I have to join this binary of some kind. I can't come up with my own something in between. We did debate Die Hard being a Christmas movie or not. I'd probably say Home Alone as well, because that's just more of my childhood than Happy Season, which came out much later.
Same. So it says a lot about our lives. Anyways.
All right, well, guys, it turns out there are a lot of adult Kevins who are home alone over the holidays. And over the years, more and more adult men are living their lives more or less alone.
Okay. Yeah, like we've been using these words a lot, and like alone or lonely even, and it feels a little hyperbolic-y or over the top. Can we clarify, like, what are we saying when we say alone here?
Well, apparently, according to a survey from the aptly named Survey Center on American Life, male friendships have steadily declined over the past 30 years. Now, I want to make that stat a little bit more clear. So, any guesses as to what percentage of men in 1990s said they had absolutely no friends?
0 friends. I can't imagine it's a large number. Like
Right.
0.5%? I don't know. Justin?
I hope it's on the lower side, but I don't have a lot of faith in it.
You guys might be right. Okay, so it's actually just 3%.
A large number, but it's not the worst. Okay.
Yeah, so now let's bring these numbers into the present. So where do you think that percentage is for American men now? If you had to guess.
Can't imagine it's much larger, but I know where this is going, so I don't know.
I wish it would have at least remained the same, but I have a feeling it went down.
Well, no, it went up. The survey reports about 15% of American men at the moment have no friends.
It's horrible. And not surprising. This even seems like a low number for a lot of the people I see who really have.
Well, what do those numbers mean? Like, what is the population of men currently in the States?
Well, roughly speaking, there are over 165 million men in the States.
And 15% of that would be...
So that's just over 25 million men, which is basically 5 times what it was in 1990.
Holy shit.
With no friends.
Is that stat true only for men?
Well, what's interesting is actually Americans on average have less friends than they used to. So not to make this a purely binary conversation, but as per census numbers and reporting, the percentage of women with no friends actually went from 1% in 1990 to 10% in 2021. But back to that increase in men, Justin, I'm wondering, how long have you been working in the counseling field?
Since about 2008.
Amazing. So that's like 15 years. So have you seen this trend firsthand in your work?
I work with a lot of new fathers who are, between the pandemic and even before the pandemic, didn't have anyone other than a partner that they would talk to about anything. And often they weren't even doing that. So it's not surprising to me. I think it was in the 90s or the early aughts that the book Bowling Alone came out. The sense that we were all reading about how we're doing more and more things alone. So spend a lot of time in sessions just almost talking / coaching people about how to reach out to people they've already been friends with, or how to make new ones, or how to connect around anything, just so that they're not feeling so isolated.
Why do you think men are having less and less friends?
I mean, I don't think we've been socialized past, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 to really connect around who we are as opposed to what we can do, men, boys in the society. There's certainly a call around that time to stop expressing your feelings, your vulnerability. So when you are connecting, you're not doing much more than some surface stuff for a long time. And obviously that's not all men, but it is a trend I've seen with people who are very afraid that they will bother someone will judge them if they were even in the depths of lockdown. And I had a lot of people who had infants during that time. It was a very different experience than I expected. And we're so nervous about reaching out to a friend. What would they say? How would they judge me? They've got their own problems, all this stuff. And they were just holding so much of it in.
Yeah, we're on the verge of something here that I think is really special. But I want to pause because I'm really enjoying this, and I'm wondering if you two just want to take it from here.
Yeah, Justin, let's you and I take this conversation further and talk more about relationships, or the lack thereof, and what that means during the holiday times. And that's coming up right after the break.
Calling all bookworms and changemakers, get ready to dive into Book Club. That's BOOK, Beyond Our Own Knowledge, for those that don't know. Explore a world of captivating reads that explore diversity, foster empathy, and spark personal and professional growth. Join a vibrant community of readers with over 650 male leaders to date. Engage in thought-provoking discussions and expand your horizons. It's not just a book club, it's a journey towards a more inclusive future. Visit bookclubformen.com today and start your reading adventure with purpose. Book Club, where pages turn to progress and readership to leadership. Join the club and let's read for change.
All right, so welcome back. I am here with Justin Leoy, our resident practitioner of counseling for men. And now that Ramoy's gone, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, shall we?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. All right, so Justin, I'm wondering, are you a celebrate on Christmas Eve person, or is it Christmas Day, or Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa maybe, or do you abstain from celebrating?
So I am Italian American, was raised Catholic. So Christmas Eve was always the biggest one for my family and I, and lots of good food.
Okay, so I don't want to put you on the spot,
Oh.
but do you plan on celebrating with others, like friends or a partner or family maybe?
All three, friends, family, partner. And it's going to be one of those on the larger side coming out of all the lockdowns and stuff. I think it's going to be about 30 people.
Yeah, that's still a good crew. Going back to that survey that we spoke about earlier, right? Where we talked about how more and more men have no friends. What's interesting in that survey is that men do get emotional support from other folks. And that's namely their parents, their spouses if they're married, or their women friends. And is that okay? I guess I'm trying to figure out, how important is it for men to have friendships with other men if they're getting support elsewhere?
We need other people. We need other people who are willing to see us as we are and not constantly trying to make us to the friend or the son or the father or the partner that they want us to be. We're not doing any of this in isolation. Hopefully we're not isolating ourselves, and we'll meet men, we'll meet women, we'll meet everybody across the gender spectrum. That kind of reaffirms allowing us to be who we are and challenges anything that cuts that off.
So this is interesting, right? Because you're like, okay, we just need love and support. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be from men. It just has to be from folks who are willing to support.
I mean, finding a space, a person, a handful of people, 5 people who you really can call at any time, who are willing to not judge you and listen to you. And I personally don't think it matters where along sexuality or the gender spectrum that falls. It's a pretty good idea though, if you are like I am a cis man, that I am talking to other cis men about what that means and how I show up and how I don't show up and how I screw up. And if we're not conscious and thinking about all that, then we're not going to have really deep, intimate friendships because we're not going to fully be present, even for ourselves.
Yeah, I love the way that you contextualize that, right? So now, specific to the holidays, why could this lack of friendship or community be even more challenging for men?
Oh, for those people who either travel or go back to a childhood home with all those people you grew up with, it is very easy to fall right back into those roles of whoever you were at 12 and 15. And what is really important is to remember that we have hopefully have developed, and just being able to text or call a friend in between courses on Christmas can be really life-saving, so that you don't go off on the uncle or parent that you're about to get in that big discussion with. A couple hours into that, it usually doesn't go well, especially if someone brings up politics or something else, which inevitably will come up, and then we're not having conversations or getting to know each other. We're fighting, we're angry, we're saying things that can't always be taken back, we're leaving early in ways that are not possible. Although that is one thing I would recommend. It's difficult when we get or feel stuck.
Yeah.
And we can once we get back into some childhood roles and stuff like that. So recognizing I don't have to be a part of this conversation. I can go for a walk. I could actually leave and get the train back home.
I feel like that whole response needs to be a little cheat sheet for the holidays, just laminated and passed around.
If you need it. A lot of people go home and they love that and they get into it. I'm not saying everyone needs to do it. Just knowing yourself that you have the choice.
Oh, yeah.
If you can make that choice, I would really recommend trying some way for you to continue holding on to your own humanity and sanity.
Talk about it. As resident counselor of Masculinity Podcast, it'd be amazing if we borrowed some more tips you may have for the holiday season, right? So, like, how would you recommend men ask for support? Because that may be the hardest part, right?
It usually is. I think I said this when we first met years ago, and it hasn't shifted that much. But most men who come to me as a therapist do so either by a woman in their life calling me or a woman in their life finding the therapist or 5 therapists and saying, you need to call one of these people. So I've been surprised, and maybe I shouldn't have been, how the talks I'll have with guys about how they could reach out for support from another male friend to talk about, like, I'm nervous about the holidays. This is my first time doing it when I have a kid, and I'm scared that I'm going to be judged. This is the first time I'm bringing this person home. I'm not bringing anyone home, and I'm not, and I'm afraid everybody's going to be yelling at me and judging me. I have had sessions where we've talked about, like, I can't possibly do that. I can't put my stuff onto them. I don't want to look like I'm having any problems. I'm sure I'm the only one who's dealing with this. Often for them, I'm like, well, what if that friend that you're thinking about, what if they called you? And they said exactly the same thing. They're like, oh, that would be fine. I would love to talk to them. And I think I have some stuff I could say to them, even if it's just that I feel the same way. So so often the thing they're willing to give other people is something that they're so afraid to ask for themselves. And it really doesn't take long for some people to recognize, once they do that they are not the only ones feeling as scared or down or anxious or shamed or anything. There's to go back to the conversation about, like, should we have friends with other men? It is really healing to be with other men and recognize I'm not the only one who carries this thing. And if we need to hear it from another man, and we didn't get that from a father or a grandfather or an uncle or an older brother, it's so powerful just to know that you're not alone. Even if you want to be alone, even if you want the Kevin McAllister holiday, to know that that's a choice is very different than, like, I'm just wallowing in shame because nobody really knows me, and if they did, they'd hate me.
So why do you think that's so scary for men to do that reaching out?
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying before. I forget if it's Terrence Real or Pia Melody wrote about how we kind of get halved around 8, 9, 10, 11, where boys are encouraged to, be a leader, be strong, don't cry, all that stuff, and girls are encouraged to don't be bossy, don't push back. It's this time in our lives where we give up, and we're very encouraged to give up half of our humanity. So fast forward 10, 20, 30, 50 years, we just haven't done it. And when you don't do something for a long time, it takes quite a lot of work to undo that. And the fear and the shame behind the fear just builds and makes it more and more difficult.
Yeah, and isn't there something about boys being discouraged to be kind of open and vulnerable in their relationships with other boys for, due to homophobia reasons?
Wasn't there that hashtag years ago, hashtag no homo, like, oh, I like this guy, but like what is wrong with us?
That was like an era in hip hop for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would one actually know that they're experiencing mental health distress, though? Like, I'm thinking that there may be men out there who don't even really know that they're experiencing it. So, like, what does that actually feel like?
Sometimes when we talk about depression and teenagers and adults, it doesn't look like what people often think about with depressed, of like someone lying in bed, can't get out of bed and is crying, and that's true. But also it could look a lot more like being a workaholic. It could look like a lot of anger. It could look like a lot of avoiding things, of all those things that will take us away from that, so that we don't even realize that we're just trying to numb ourselves, because what else is underneath all that is just too scary to realize how dependent we may be. And we don't want to ever allow ourselves to feel that, how scared or not in control we are.
Piggyback on that. What does it feel like in the body?
Yeah, great. Because I'll tell you, so many people have such a hard time talking about the feeling that we often start with the body. Where in your body are you feeling uncomfortable or discomfort? Doing a body scan, and someone will talk about chest being tight or stomach being tighter or upset. Feel like getting kind of hot or tight in the face. Anytime I do a body scan with a group or even with an individual, someone is always surprised that they had no idea I was holding this tension over here in my leg or something like that. What it was like to just let go of that a little. It's amazing. Again, we don't know it, and sometimes we don't want to believe it. I mean, I've had people who've come to me because they had a partner who for months was telling them that they're more stressed than they've ever been or seen this, and they just don't believe it. They don't want to recognize it. And once we start taking some of that away or recognizing how much we're carrying somewhere, it's scary to recognize what you could actually begin to put down. And it's scary.
Yeah. There may be folks who aren't, in the holiday, there may be folks who may not be ready to be around crowds of people just yet, right? But they do want to feel some relief during this period of the holidays. So I'm wondering if you have any tips for them.
Like, don't want to go to a large family gathering or a large friend gathering because you mean because of COVID, like still afraid being around large groups, or do you mean something else?
Just kind of like socially, they're in that in-between period where they're starting to see that they want to be social, but they're like, not quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, like anytime we're kind of talking about something where there's some fear or anxiety around, limited exposure can be helpful. So starting to be inside a restaurant with a bunch of people, getting on the subway, if you're in New York, or somewhere where there's a lot more people, and just knowing what I'm feeling and to just, recognize that. I mean, sometimes we're just learning what we can tolerate. And you can do this really precisely with like a scale of some kind. If walking into a crowded room of people is a 10 and 10 is like, I'm going to have a panic attack, or then don't start with that. What are the steps to kind of get up to that? And then like recognizing how we can regulate ourselves, which might be something like breathing exercises and, the body work stuff. Any of those things that we know can kind of bring us back to center, and start with something that's much more low stakes, and then kind of work up from there if you want to. I mean, not everyone has to go to their 27 people holiday party if it's going to cause that much pain. I mean, why would your family want you to be in such pain? We're allowed to like make our own decisions in that, even though a lot of people might tell us we're not.
Awesome. Okay, so one last question, Justin. One more time. Why do you think it's important for men to see the fact that they're not alone and it's okay for them to ask for help?
I mean, the scary answer to that question is that the suicide rate or attempts and completed rates are just so high. And so much of that is we're so afraid of like seeing who we are and talking about that we turn to some really dangerous things. So yeah, that's why, because it's killing us.
Yeah, I gotta thank you for that one.
Wait, is this a bit?
No, I mean, that was honestly super important for me to hear. Like the heaviness, like on my chest, can get real at times. I go to therapy. I got a decent amount of friends, but it's a reminder that I still need support, or like maybe just allow myself to be more honest.
Yeah, I really can't recommend it enough. Truly, no matter if it's the holidays or not, if this conversation has opened up something for you, I can't stress enough that you really don't have to struggle through it alone. And that can look like Googling counselors in your area.
Or yeah, maybe it's like the hardest thing, but try sending a vulnerable text to a friend or a loved one, just asking for help.
And we also have a page on our website that lists more resources, actually. So you can head on over to masculinitypod.com to find those. And also, we'll be passing more links on our socials. So that's at masculinitypod, always with a hard K, on all the social platforms.
Yeah, and on the gram is where you can watch our IG live show, Beneath the Mask. Next week, you can watch Samantha dive deeper with our previous guest, Jeff Pereira, about his episode, Radicalization and T-Swift. You don't want to miss it.
That's also where we talk about Ramoy behind his back, because he's not on the socials. So it's going to be something you definitely don't want to miss.
Well, until then, I'm your boy, Ramoy George Phillip the First.
And I'm Samantha Zessi. Thank you so much for listening.
Peace.
Ciao.
Am I going to be surprised again? What's going to happen?